Unbelievable. If you needed more info as to the racist belief of one, well, Ben Shapiro, look no further. He's calling for the pardon of Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered and was convicted by a jury of his peers of that murder against Mr. George Floyd. Here it is.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was, in fact, the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. Talk about delivering pardons. President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges. He can't pardon on state charges Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. As I say, we will be covering this pretty extensively in the coming weeks. Right now, you should go to pardonderek.com and sign our petition asking President Trump to grant justice to Officer Derek Chauvin.
Now, who is backing the play? Well, Elon Musk, who decided to repost this in solidarity with such an offensive thought. To pardon a man who murdered a black man while being recorded doing so. Sharon, just when you thought it could not go any lower, they figure out how to knock the bottom out of low and go even lower than that. What say you?
These are punks and fools. They're agitators and gaslighters. That's all this is about.
What is going on, guys? Hey, I wanted to come back to you, and I wanted to talk for a minute about how Ben Shapiro wants to have Trump pardon Derek Chauvin. And again, I agree. I do agree. I don't think in any way, shape, or form that Chauvin is responsible for the death of Floyd. Now, the autopsy found that George Floyd did not die from asphyxiation. He died from heart disease and a drug overdose. And that's what they found. But, again, 5 years ago almost, when all this took place, because of the temperature in the country, this outrage, they had to find someone to blame it on. They had to. They had to find somebody to sacrifice. And they sacrificed Chauvin. His own police department, they sacrificed him as well. And again, we understand that the knee on the neck, or the back where the neck is, where the neck meets, that was standard procedure. Now, I'm not saying look good, but George Floyd was complaining he could not breathe beforehand. And again, it was due to the drugs and the heart disease. Nothing else. But again, that's what they had to play it off as, because again, this country was going straight to hell just under 5 years ago. But guys, I want to play for you guys a little bit of what CNN had to say about this. Watch.
I'm tired of having fake conversations, so we just have to say this is gaslighting, right? So this guy was convicted by a jury in a state court. So no matter what Donald Trump decides to do, if he issues this federal pardon, he's going to sit in jail. So what's the purpose of it? Why would you go down this line, reopen this wound, when it's not going to have any impact whatsoever?
You know what? I don't think they know. I mean, you're 100%. What he says is absolutely correct. It's a silly conversation. So the trial we all watched on TV was the state court trial.
Right.
The way Donald Trump does not, or any president, doesn't have the power to pardon anyone in the state court. Like, he can't pardon himself, and it's only the governor of the state can do that. It's the same thing here. So hypothetically, if Trump did pardon him, what happened was after he gets convicted, he then goes into federal court on civil rights violation, and he pleads guilty to 20 years. So, but it runs concurrently at the same time. So if Trump pardons
He's serving
him,
the same sentence.
he's still standing in the
And what
state
he's doing is, so in the state court case, he was found guilty by a jury.
Correct.
In federal court, he pled guilty. So he acknowledged and accepted responsibility. So you're going to pardon him despite the fact that he accepted responsibility for something, obviously saying he did it because you have to tell a judge and confirm that you're accepting this plea for a reason, and there's not going to be any impact whatsoever. So other than to gaslight, other than to reopen these wounds, what's the purpose? Why are we having this conversation? Why is Elon Musk joining in and kind of making this a bigger issue?
I'll tell you why. I mean, honestly, because we've gotten to a point where I think they want to incite violence. They want to incite protests so that they have an excuse to invoke what Donald Trump wanted to invoke last time, but was not allowed to do by some members of his cabinet, which is to invoke the Insurrection Act and take more power. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds cuckoo, for Cocoa Puffs, except that we know he tried to do that last time and was stopped by people in his own cabinet. And so this is to create dissension. This is to create animosity. This is to create protests in the streets so that he can go out there and put a stop to it and basically do what he was not allowed to do last time. And take even more.
Trump would be trying to stop what happened, because what happened was only done for a political reason. That was it. I mean, where is Derek Chauvin's white privilege, right? Where it says white privilege? Again, nowhere. Because there is no such thing.
We can't avoid the racial message.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
That is the being sent, the dog whistle, and I think it's a lot about dividing people, otherizing people, and just having this conversation is about that. The way that they're treating Latino immigrants, it's about that. It's about making certain white people feel better, more powerful than Black people, Latino people, immigrants, you name it.
It is
find
that.
your the group that you can define as
quickly, I spoke with the brother of George Floyd, Philonise Floyd, who was there on the ground for a very long time. And I just wanted to read a statement. In talking to him, I covered this from the very beginning to the very end, stayed in Minneapolis for about a year and followed the trial and followed the case and was there during the protests. So here's what George Floyd's brother said to me. He said, if the president were to do this, it would hurt us. It is so personal. We saw our brother tortured to death. My niece would have to see him walk freely while her dad is in the ground. If he does this, it will set America back 400 years. The ones pushing for this are trying to remove any power that Black Americans have to get justice. It is disgusting. Why would you do this? Why would you re-injure this family and America? So why is Musk pushing?
You know what, Anna? You are ridiculous. You are. Again, we got to be honest about this. Number one, you're talking about that white people, they want to feel like they have power over everyone else. No. Actually, what's going on with that is quite the reverse. White people are not trying to feel like they have power over anyone. Not most. Again, white people right now will bend over and say, oh, I'm so sorry, for something they never did. Black people and Latino, not all, but a good amount, are taking advantage of that. Again, the people at the southern border, they're trying to come across into this country. It's not that they're Latino. It's that they're illegal. They're breaking into our country. And again, Doesn't matter what color they are. They're breaking into our country. And guess what? White people ought to feel so bad. We ought to let them. We ought to let whoever come in, take over. Have our country. Have it. Do whatever you want. Take my house. Do whatever you want. No. I don't want them here. I don't want them here. And again, most people, I think, feel that way deep down. But again, right now, they're too afraid to say something because, again, they'd be racist. Well, I'm not afraid. And I'm not racist. I understand what's right and I understand what's wrong. And what you guys are doing is wrong. And George Floyd, his brother, talking about it was set us back, 400 years? What are you talking about, man? If this guy did not kill your brother, how in the hell is this setting it back 400 years? You want power over people. That's what you're wanting. That's what you're advocating for. Because if this guy did not if there's no way that he killed your brother because your brother did not die of asphyxiation. In what way is that going back 400 years? What way? Hell, by letting him rot in prison, by letting him rot in prison for something he did not do. This setting this country way back.
I think the good news here is, from my understanding, no one at the White House is entertaining this. There isn't any political advantages strategically for the president to even consider such a thing. Sometimes stuff on social media.
Elon Musk is in the White House.
Well, sometimes I think what you see on social media, Sarah, if I'm just being frank, probably should be ignored. I just got to be honest. I think this guy has had his attorneys attempt to appeal, from my understanding.
Yes.
And at every level, they have failed. The justice system appears to have worked the way it was intended to work. I think the White House is right to ignore this, to keep focusing on other things. If Musk wants to put this out here, he owns Twitter, he can do whatever the hell he wants. But from my perspective as a strategist, the White House needs to just ignore this.
But
Nothing
Musk
will come
is
from this.
part of the White House, and Musk is retweeting this to 319 million people. So he's putting it out there, and when Musk says things, Donald Trump listens. So what do you do about it?
I don't think the president's going to listen to this.
And should we ignore it? Because we're put in a position where, do we ignore this issue of gaslighting, of trying to incite things, and just act like it's not going to happen because there won't be nothing will come of it because he'll still be in jail? Or do we focus on it and try and make it an issue? So now you're putting us in a position to have to decide, do we want to address this or
not?
not?
Hold on, let's look at where it's coming from. This isn't coming from someone at the Department of Justice. This is coming from an entertainer. That's what he is, Ben Shapiro. He's an entertainer. And look, it worked. It worked. It's a topic tonight on this #1 rated show on CNN.
Because the head of Doge.
Someone who spoke at the cabinet meeting. Someone who was there yesterday.
We are all driving people to go watch Ben Shapiro right now. We're all driving people. What did he say? What's going on?
Arthur,
It worked.
with all due respect, he puts these kinds of people in positions of influence. Dan Bongino is now the #2 guy.
That's your buddy.
No, not my buddy. Believe me, not my buddy. At the FBI, right? Pete Hegseth is running the DOD. I mean, these are all people who you could have said 6 months ago were the same jokers whose job was to go on TV or go on their podcasts and get ratings, and now they're in positions of influence.
He's dismantling.
We have got to understand something. Elon Musk, I mean, Trump has respect for him, yes. And again, I'm sure they like each other a lot. They're friends. But, and we all have known this over and over again, Trump makes up his own mind. He does what he wants to do. He's always been that way. I mean, how many times have the left said, Trump's going to go and do whatever so-and-so says. And then he doesn't. numerous times. So again, what's really kind of sticking out to me is what they're doing right here around the table. This panel, they're talking about, again, they're trying to discount the whole thing about, should Trump pardon Derek Chauvin? Of course, they're saying, of course not. Basically, that'd be racist. That'd be horrible. That'd be stupid. That would be whatever. And they're doing so. They're discounting it because, again, they want to get a jump on the whole thing. They're hoping to use their power to stop Trump from possibly doing that, even before Trump responds to it. Because they know, or they hope at least, that Trump will respond to public opinion. And again, we have seen Trump go against things before. And again, that's the reason why people like Trump so much. It's because Trump will make up his own mind and do his own thing. And he does what he feels to be right.
At the DOJ, the departments that would be in charge of investigating cases like this at a federal level have ceased to exist, basically.
And we can't ignore that. That the person who is now talking about DEI being a problem, dismantling things at the Department of Justice and everything else, is talking about Derek Chauvin needs to be pardoned. Those things don't happen in a vacuum. They're all coming together for a reason, and we can't ignore it.
Until the Justice Department, until the White House, or Caroline Leavitt, the president's press secretary, says the president is considering this, I think this is a nothing burger. I think we can move on. Elon Musk tweets a lot of things. Do we debate that President Trump is now considering every single tweet that Elon Musk puts out on X every single day? Absolutely not. I think we should put that in that category and keep it moving.
And not speak up and say, hey, guys, this shouldn't happen. We don't have the right, or we shouldn't do that.
The White House isn't considering this. The Justice Department isn't considering this. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think anything.
And you think it's a bad idea?
Okay, of course I think it's a bad idea.
Let me
I think
throw
most people would
something
think
out
it's a
here.
bad idea.
You know what? I agree. I do agree. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Nothing does. And again, we have truly got to recognize that. 80 million people voted for Trump. They voted for Trump. They're sick of the wokeness. They are sick of boys can be girls and girls can be boys. And they're sick of systemic racism. They're sick of white privilege. Again, these things are not real. Again, there's something that really kind of popped up, especially under Obama. The fallen Messiah. We truly have to recognize, man, that, again, nothing truly happens in a vacuum. What you're experiencing is people are done. They're done with the bullshit. They're done with the bullshit. I mean, period. They're done with the racial focus on white men. And again, they call white men racist while they're the ones that are actually racist. And they have got to blame somebody else. They got to find a person, a white person, especially a white man, to blame when something happens. And then they call him racist. If you guys would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks.
You son of a